My calendar says we have a meeting now. I see no one. Arno, it's a pleasure to see you.
Hello, David. How are you doing?
Doing fine, and I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I met your wife in Brussels.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, so I was going, oh, that's amazing. I did not know.
Yes, this
So
tends to happen quite a bit to me, where it's like, yeah, that's what
awesome.
happens when you work in the same circles.
You know,
I mean, the truth is, it's not completely accidental because that's how we met initially. So, 15 years ago or so, more like that.
right.
So,
Well, I mean, when you think open source software, you immediately think of love blooming in the air. So
no,
I
but
do.
what's interesting is we come from two very different angles, right? Because she's more like political and social science, and I'm a technical guy, but somehow our paths crossed.
that's awesome. Anyway, it was a pleasure to meet, and I didn't realize. So that was amazing. That was great.
Apologize for my computer's lack of desire to participate in the call. Uh, Give me a few moments while everything is loading and starts to settle down. Does anyone have any topics they would like to discuss today?
Why are you evil Santa?
I'm not
Oh.
evil Santa.
Well, not evil Santa.
Why
Why are you
evil?
Black Hat Santa?
I'm metal Santa.
Metal Santa? I love it. I love it. I love your hats. I also, Krobe and I have at least I have started sending Krobe photos of my random headgear that I find while I'm out shopping, and have not bought very much of, but yeah. Anyways, sorry, I had to ask.
Well, 2 calls ago, before my computer crashed, everyone had holiday wear on, so I pulled mine out, and it's just stayed on ever since.
I should go snag mine. I'll be right back.
Do we have a little Google Docs note thing that we're taking notes on?
We sure do. It is not only listed in our GitHub repository, it is also listed at the top of our Slack channel. And I will now put it into the Zoom chat.
Well, I can tell you where it isn't. It's not in the calendar invite.
Yeah, that's an OpenSSF operations challenge.
Well, it's a good.
There's only so many things I can do, man.
It's a good idea. I have no idea who those people are.
I know, right? No, I think that would be an excellent practice we should have, is to put it there as well. Look at that. Nice Rudolph hat. Right. Nice Rudolph toque.
Thank you. It's unfortunately it came with like little strings attaching it to keep it up, but those seem to have snapped, so I need to get somebody to sew them back up so it stays up. But yeah.
All right, I posted a link to our very empty agenda in Zoom chat. So, do we have any topics we'd like to discuss today?
I guess the question here is almost basically next steps. Last I've been out for a little bit, traveling the world. But last I recall the state, we had a diagram. Was it Matt who put it out?
Yeah.
We had the mind map.
So I have
the
an
mind
update
map
on
of the
that.
orgs and projects, which was darn helpful. And I mean, even if there are other diagrams, we should probably have that one. I don't care about the tool so much, but something that captured that.
Yeah, so I am happy to discuss this. I have a little bit of an update on this. I don't think Matt is going to join us. I tried to talk to him 2 days ago. I mean, I could talk to him, but he could barely answer. He's out sick. I mean, his voice was so
Oh,
off. I had to tell him, Matt, this is not right. You need to stop this now. He was really trying to have a conversation, and I was like, but Matt, you can't do this to yourself. Stop it. We will talk again later. And I haven't heard back from him since then. So I think he's probably out still. Um, but so before we get there, I had two topics I wanted to talk about. There was this one, and the other one was the status of this group. The last time we talked about having the charter ready to pick for vote. Did I miss this?
The group, the majority of the group agreed to adopt the charter.
Okay.
That has been reflected in the artifacts. And
you
it's just a
haven't
matter of
present-
going back to the TAC and saying that's done, and we will be blessed to
Okay.
be a SIG underneath them.
All right, but that's the point I wanted to get to. I thought that's what happened. Thanks for the update. I wanted to make sure I was on the same page. And so you'll do that when TAC TV reviews you.
Last TAC meeting, unfortunately, we had several speakers that did not use their time appropriately, and it ate into the whole call. And we had a long list of things to talk about and didn't get to much of it. So I will put it on the backlog for a future call, but I don't know when we'll officially get that. But when I spoke to them, they were all in agreement. We just wanted to see the paperwork done. They were fine adopting us as kind of somebody reporting into.
All right. So, okay, thanks for allowing me to get back on the same page. All right. So regarding the mind map, so here's, and it's unfortunate because I wanted to talk to have a chance to talk to Matt about it. Because so what happened is he worked a little bit more on it and then he shared it with me. And of course, it's a bit of pain because you need to install some tool to use it. Yeah. I mean, for now, it's free in evaluation mode. I am not clear exactly how long I can keep doing this for free, but so I took advantage and it allowed me to get a bit deeper from what he had showed us because it was impressive, but it's a bit overwhelming. There's so much going on. And it's only when you really take the time to sit down, have the map in front of you and start going into it that you realize how much information there is there. And so, unfortunately, I tried to go through it. And what I realized is there are many different ways you can represent those things. And it's not clear, what is the right way, And so in the little discussion I had with him, I shared with him, I said, I feel like, there's in some ways the tree he built was a bit too deep. There was too much details trying to be captured in that map. And I took an approach. I actually did another version. I was hoping I'd be able to share that with him and be able to have a discussion, see how he felt about it. Because his initial reaction was like, well, this is how my mind functions. It's a mind map. He kind of maps it out in that way. But so to give you an example, it's like you look at the guides, the best practices working group, which we all know quite well. He captures the fact that it's producing guides, and then he creates a node that has guide, and then underneath the guides, but then he says, oh, but there's also two guides that are concise guides. So he creates a subsection, concise guides, and another section that's like, well, not concise guides, if you will. And for me, it's like, well, you're just making the tree much more complex than it really needs to be.
Agreed.
And so I took a different approach where I built on what he had built and tried to basically flatten a little bit the tree he had built. And the other part was, and I realized that, well, you could go, it's not very clear where you draw the line, to be fair, because then you say, well, working groups, do I need a node that says working groups and have all the working groups underneath, or can I just put the working groups, one by one underneath best practices working group, and it's like, well, there are pros and cons to both of them. And there's the other aspect is this notion of tags that he started having, where you can add attributes to things by saying, well, this maps to, this part of the mobilization plan, for instance. And you can say, well, so a lot of the things can be captured in different ways, either as inheritance in the tree, or, and to be fair, I have actually had a bit of experience in, building taxonomies and schemas and stuff, and you fall into the same kind of stuff. There's no, there isn't a single way to map those things out, and you fall into that again here. So it's like, where are things, nodes that you inherit from, or are these attributes that you add to it? So for instance, to get back to the example of the guides, I figure, no, we just need one category that's guides. And if you want, you can have an attribute, a tag that says, oh, this is a concise guide, but it's kind of, add-on, doesn't have to be part of the tree.
I agree. I don't think having that distinguishing between a big and a little guide adds value to it. It's an artifact that this group is curating, and it's a
So
style.
I can actually share with you guys some of this stuff. So hold on, should be able to share. It's not letting me share anything. What's that? That's because I have a new computer. I probably haven't done that yet. So it's going to say, wait. I hope it doesn't have to, I don't have to. Hold on, bear with me.
And while we're
Just got
talking,
that new computer.
while you're
Yeah,
loading
go
that up,
ahead.
Arnaud, in light of some of the strategy and direction they want to take the foundation next year, this effort, this exercise has become more important. The TAC will be reviewing all the working groups and kind of understanding where they fit within this new vision that they're cobbling together. And we're going to go through it. And there's a desire for reduction of duplicity. So the fact we have Salsa and S2C2, we need to figure out a way that we can harmonize those two projects so that we have potentially one umbrella and they might have two sub projects. So there's a desire. So the TAC will be going through and looking at the working groups, the initiatives, and everything, the SIGs, and understanding, does this fit within the strategic direction of the foundation? And, do we want to start to harmonize and reduce duplication? So that this foundational work is going to be critical, and we will be called upon to help the TAC think through some of these things and identify these duplicates and gaps.
Yeah. And I think this kind of map can definitely help in that. So of course, it's telling me I have to quit and reopen the app. So bear with me. I'll be right back, hopefully.
Okay.
All right, first step is good. I'm back. Let's see if I can actually share my screen now. Oh, it looks like I can. So things are working the way it's supposed to, mind you. Amazing.
And where Matt's exercise before we move on to yours is useful is that he went through and identified, like, the fact that All Star is listed as a project, but it's not in the document, the README documentation correctly. So ideally, we'll be able to go through and make these corrections so we get things more consistent.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do this throughout OpenSSF's existence, but that doesn't mean I always get it. And in fact, I've been trying to make a simple rule. There must always be a link up and link down.
Right.
So if you're a project within a working group, the working group
Yes.
page should link to you. The project should link back to its working group. and basically all the way up and down, so that there's no, you should be able to start at any one place and end up at any other.
So I assume you guys can see this, right? So
Yes.
this is Matt's diagram. This is untouched. It's the way he shared it with me. And so you can see here the kind of levels. There are multiple levels, right? This is best practices working group, and then projects. It's like some are code related, and the other things, and so on, right? And you can see, for instance, the guides I was talking about here with the multiple levels and so on. And so so this is my version of it. And, I had two main driving factors. The first one was, like I said, trying to flatten out some of this stuff. So you can see, for instance, this guide stuff now, it's just like one level. And then I added some tags to say, okay, this is a concise guide, but I feel like this is kind of accessory and doesn't have to be brought up at the level of the structure itself. The other driving factor for me was I'm quite familiar with the new governance structure that we have adopted in the earlier this year, and I try to map this as much as possible. So I know for a fact that our governance structures, if you're doing code, you're supposed to be a project. So this is how I kind of restructure things around. There's working groups that can have SIGs and projects that do code. And yes, there are other things. And today, this is like the great MFA distribution project. We all know today it wouldn't be called project, right? We would call it initiative or something.
Initiative, yeah.
But and so I created a kind of fit all type of node that's called other activities. So essentially, these are the main sub nodes that you have under a working group. It's 6 projects that do code and other activities, and then you can have varying stuff there. And so, but this is kind of the gist of the changes I made, and try to figure things out a little bit and try to flatten out a little bit the structure. And I also put all the working groups under the tag and try to, clean it up a little bit, building on what he had done. And, it's a bit awkward for me to share this with the group now, because I wanted to have a chance to talk to him first, because I don't want to look like I'm hijacking his work. Yeah. But, I spent a little bit of time on this, and I thought, for me, it's an improvement. I don't know if he would feel the same, but now he's out, so I'm not, this is not the planned hijacking for sure. But
I don't see it as hijacking, Arnaud. I think it's taking work and improving upon it. I personally prefer this a little better, just because it's more simple and a little more consistent. It's an evolution.
Yeah, so this is why anyone's here to claim. Might as well share it with you guys and get input from you guys on how you feel, if you think this is the right way or if you prefer the other way.
Yeah, all the tags hanging off at the end, I don't know that that's adding anything.
No, so I think he did this because it's a reminder that he has this idea that everything should map, for instance, to a mobilization plan, or if they don't, well, maybe there's a lack. I don't know if he intends to add something and he just put that as a reminder that he needs to add something or not. I honestly, I don't know that. But
it feels like that should be an attribute to that leaf object, is really what I think.
Yeah, but so in general, the way it works, and I kind of maybe extended what he had in mind on that front, is, I figured everything, because I mean, you also have to deal with the way the system works. There isn't that many ways to put attributes attached to a node, and tags for me is just a way to capture, okay, these are not like sub nodes, they are just attributes related to the node the tags is attached to. And I kind of tried to generalize this to capture all the different attributes we could have attached to a node. But that's a bit of a detail. Why we have tags when there is nothing underneath, again, I think it's because he wanted to capture the fact that maybe we are missing some information.
I think that's what he didn't get to it, or was unable to find out more information.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, this particular thing is showing an interesting differentiating. It's a low level detail, but what the heck? I lead it so I notice. The best practices badge, I've been including it as a project because we absolutely do have code.
It is a project, yeah.
Yeah. So it's right now listed as a not project here, and I think it belongs over on project.
Okay.
Go to the left.
It's where was it?
There we go. OpenSSF
this
best
one,
practice.
right?
Yeah. I would move that to as a sub under projects, just like scorecard and all-star. Well, obviously that's not hard to edit.
Open source the hell out of that. Agile.
There you go.
Yes. I mean, it takes a little bit of getting used to the tool, but it's actually pretty smart. For this kind of stuff, it's very convenient. You can drag things around. You can move them level, and it kind of shows you where, where that would go. And it's pretty, I have to say, I mean, I'm pretty impressed. It works quite well.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of org chart related tools. The only problem, I'm a little hesitant because this particular tool, if you got to edit, now you got to install this particular proprietary project, proprietary software, and but
I haven't explored how much you can export this in what,
Yeah.
Let me see, actually.
You can export in PDF.
In SVG, PDF, Markdown, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OPML. What the hell is this? Never heard of OPML.
OP Markdown language. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't either.
And text bundle.
I will say that the PDF that I saw earlier got cut off, though that may be an artifact or something else.
Well, the other thing I don't know is, evaluation mode there. And I wonder if some of this is really
it might be bound. Like
sometimes
hobbled.
Those things, you will go to try and use it and then says, oh, sorry, you just found a pro on the feature.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit the
here
50th
to
node.
enable it,
Right.
Adobe does that with Acrobat Reader, for instance. They offer you to edit your PDF, but then as soon as you click, they say, hey, here's where to buy the license.
I actually don't object to that as long as it's not hard to figure out and as opposed to a surprise when you're trying to use it for real.
Exactly.
But,
I agree.
Try before you buy is not a crazy system.
No, I agree with that. Okay, but you see, so it's interesting. I mean, I also found quite a few things, he had wrong because, he tried to, and I'm sure collectively, once we can start going a bit more into the details, we can probably improve a lot. There's actually another few that I thought was interesting. Let's see if I can.
Yeah.
There's a text mode version of this thing that's a bit surprising. Well,
all right. So let me, I view this as a model. Would people buy that description of okay.
Yeah.
So the immediate
and all models are wrong.
All models are wrong.
But some are useful.
Yes. George Box, by the way, is the one who said that. Also,
they're immediately out of date as soon as they actually get, as soon as the world changes, then they're immediately out of date.
Oh, I'll go further. Anytime it exists, as soon as it exists, it's out of date. My definition of legacy software is software someone's using.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, is that the text?
Yeah, looks like. Oh, but it's indented.
Yeah, it's actually.
That's actually not insane.
No,
yeah, that's not an insane.
I discovered that, and I was like, you know what? That alone is actually quite useful.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead, David. What you were saying about the models?
Yeah, so all models are wrong. Some are useful. I'm just wondering, are the tags worth the squeeze?
Tags worth what?
The squeeze. There's a lot of visual, I will call it junk. You're adding a lot of information there that I'm wondering if you really need.
Like if we took this to the governing board, this would not be a good artifact to share with the VPs
Exactly.
and general managers. I
agree,
think we
there's too
definitely would
much
need to
detail.
distill it down, even probably another level.
Yeah. No,
But
I
like talking
agree.
with the
And
TAC, like if we're going to talk about today the best practices working group with the TAC, this might be useful to kind of show, hey, we're missing this in the README file, and this isn't classified right. You know, the MFA project isn't a project; it needs to change with initiatives. We can go through tactically and.
so Matt did mention to me in the little he said was, he thought the tags could be a different layer altogether, and we could have the same without any of the tags. And I think that, we can all agree to that. It's definitely
Yeah.
an additional layer of.
Does it have like the Visio Photoshop ability that you could have layers and hide them and whatnot?
Not that I've seen, but I don't know. I have not explored that much, so it's possible it's there, and I haven't played with it yet. I don't know.
Well, and we even could throw it into a different diagramming tool if we wanted to go talk
Yes.
like working group to working group. I think is where this probably is going to ultimately end up is we're going to need to talk to the working groups, the leads, and have them validate what we've observed. And so we may need to like have 9 littler diagrams that just show a working group or SIF or SIG.
Yeah, a typical organizational hierarchy diagram, you only go few levels and stop, and then go down further. I'm a little skeptical that the tags are worth it, but the rest of it showing organizational structure, I might not group the projects and SIGs, but go straight down to the projects. But you know what? A little subgrouping is not insane.
So
It's
that's
just
what I
adding the
also I
tags
was
I'm a little
thinking.
suspicious about.
You could, if you make it like every time there's a SIG, you add SIG to the name.
Right.
Okay.
Then you don't need
And you have a specific like shape and pattern or color, and you use this consistently, you could just get rid of the SIG node there, and you could do that throughout.
That's right.
And I actually did some of this, and then I wasn't sure, so I kind of stepped back. I've been balancing back and forth on that one, to be honest. I was like, yeah, I don't know. There seems to be some value in grouping there, but there may be another way to group them. And the other thing is, because I was asking him the colors, I mean, there's like, and he said, well, he also, and this is how, when you start overlaying too many layers of information, it becomes impossible to have a very consistent way of representing things, because I was like, why are there all these colors? He said, well, yeah, there are things that kind of, I wanted to put in red because I was like, there's a problem there. I need more information. And so it was my way to remind myself, hey, this is an area I need to go back to. But of course, this, derails you from having a more consistent way of representing all the projects, for instance. But
I like the idea of using a different shape for the different types of sub-project, different types of things, and just cram that underneath the working group as circles, boxes, and triangles or whatever.
Yeah, so I think there's more work that could be done like this. And even, even when you talk about the tags, I question the idea that, you need like mobilization plan, and then underneath there are different types of, we know there's like the different streams, and it's like, well, maybe you just need one node that says this is mobilization plan / risk assessment, and you can simplify the view by having only one node.
Right. That's what right now I'm looking at it. I'm thinking this is, I think having it all in one place is helpful. I think it looks awful complicated, overly complicated. But if we change the node, if we change the nodes, at least on projects versus SIGs, and I don't know if we can get rid of the tags or simplify them into, what is it called when you a decorator?
Yeah.
Turn those into just decorators, like say best practice, learn best practices, and what was the other? Make learn best practices decorator, make some of the other ones a decorator. Yeah, you've only got 3 categories. So just say identify best practices, adopt best practices, learn best practices. Make each of those a possible decorator and decorate stuff. And then you don't need the 300 nodes underneath each one.
Exactly. So, okay, but so this is useful because I'm happy to invest a little bit more time. If it seems like, I was on the right track. You guys also feel like,
Yeah,
we
I
also
think
try to simplify this so that it's more digestible. That's also how I felt. And I was trying to play around with some ways to simplify it. And you're encouraging me to go even further. So I'm happy to try to do that.
And again, thinking about the audience, if we handed an executive something that is you have to have a 50-inch monitor and it's all 8-point font,
yeah.
it's not going to be a good experience, and you're going to spend more time explaining why it looks like this and zooming in and out. So we want to think about the audiences when we start to deliver it.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And in fact, I mean, there are things you can do that would makes more sense if you have fewer layers, for instance. So because when you select a node like this, you can choose how the child nodes are displayed, whether it's in a tree, see the structure there? You can say,
Okay.
no, I want it to be more like vertical. Of course, it doesn't work well if you have too many layers, but if you only have 3 nodes, it works much better. And it would be a much more compact result, right? So I can actually show you if you just take this out, right?
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you've lost some information, don't get me wrong, but all of a sudden you can make the whole thing fit in a much more compact area, which
Oh, and
makes
you
it
didn't
much
lose
more
it.
digestible.
It's still
Well, I
there. You're
did
just
get
not
rid of the
displaying it.
tags, but
yeah. Can I show because I don't know, Arnold, if you've seen some of my diagrams. So let me show you what I had
yeah,
done when I try to
sure.
explain. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
There,
let's.
you have the screen.
All right. All right. Hopefully, I'm not showing anything terribly sensitive and secret. Oh, you know, actually, I am. Let's.
I'm just seeing your face right now.
Well, no, yeah, but I was processing some GDPR deletion requests, and I want to make sure that goes away. All
I
right.
don't want to see that.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to show it. You don't want to see it. So,
Yeah.
okay. So where are we going here with this? The reason I wanted to do this is, whoops, now I've lost my Zoom screen. There we go. All right, share screen, share the universe. Okay. So I don't know if you've seen this, but often when I've been presenting what is the OpenSSF, this is the first diagram I show. Governing board, TAC, working groups. And then there's 2 different slides I show depending on context, but here's one of them, which is for each of those colors, I list the projects and SIGs underneath, which is a little bit like what you're showing, but I didn't try to do all the lines because those are kind of painful to to edit on basically a slide deck. Also, again, the size is the problem. Now, one thing that I did that you probably haven't done, but might be really cool. I don't know if the tool can support it. See all these links? Those are links.
Yeah, so there's that too
click
in mind map.
I think it did that, right?
Yeah, we did have links. I mean,
okay. So in yours, you can actually click on it and jump to that.
yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I think that's really helpful. All right.
And
So
by the way, no, go ahead. But no, let me interject just on that point, because I'm going to look back to what you were talking about earlier, the 2 ways of linking. I noticed that, I mean, I don't blame him, but Matt, there's some inconsistency in what's being linked, because in some cases you link to the minutes / doc notes, right? Because that's all you have. In other cases, you have a GitHub repo. And as we know, sometimes they are both, but it's not always clear that they are linked together. So go ahead.
I
just wanted to mention that.
I think the short answer is where possible, link to the GitHub repo. And then if the GitHub repo then links to other things, well, that's okay. But then that's one canonical source. The big if is if there is no GitHub repo.
We would
Yes.
like all OpenSSF things to have an appropriate README landing page that
Right.
contains consistent information and links to other resources. That's a desire of the TAC and everybody else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's probably ought to be in GitHub, given that's where most of this stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
I think like your big inconsistency was where Salsa and Sigstore, they don't go to a repo, they bounced off to an external .dev or .io website.
Yep, there's that too.
So all the diagrams that we've talked about, I've put into our Git repo so you can actually look at them. So aside from the mind map, the others are fairly manageable on one screen. The mind map, you kind of had to scroll. I would download it and then kind of resize it in your. So we have the different kind of display types we've used.
Okay.
And so what I anticipate, I will see if I can grab Bob before the holiday. I imagine that we'll be working with some or all of the TAC. We'll need to do kind of a show and tell. So we'll want to make sure we've got all these things refined. And if we want to use the mind map for like the conversation with the TAC, we'll make sure that it's cleaned up and is consistent as we want it to be. So like if we want to hide the tag, if we agree we want to hide the tags, let's make sure that's all hidden. Make sure that projects or squares and SIGs or rhombuses or whatever.
Right.
So it's all consistent. And then I imagine we'll have probably some type of working session with some or all of the TAC and whoever wants to show up here and kind of talk through what we found to start to plan some next steps. Well, what are we going to do with this information now that we've started to capture it in a couple different formats? So I'll try to do that before the holidays, but I haven't seen Bob around on Slack, so he may be done for the year.
Yeah.
So we may need to pick this back up in January. But I would strongly encourage you, Arnaud, to continue refining. I like the evolution of Matt's initial idea.
Yeah.
All right. No, but I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, and although Matt's not here, kudos to him too, because I think this is, yeah. But you know, and I want you to take my comments as the attempt for constructive criticism.
No, but I absolutely, I appreciate the input. I mean, as I said, I was myself trying, on some of those, I was like, okay, what's the right way? What are people going to think? And I think, in all fairness, there's also two different possible goals, right? I mean, one of them is to have a tool, and I think this is what Matt drove mostly, the development of the map he put together was, a tool that captures as much information as possible so you can work with it and figuring out a lot of different aspects related to all the activities around OpenSSF. Another is, something that is actually digestible by the mass, right? The community at large and people who are new to OpenSSF and say, what the hell is going on? Of course, they are very different audiences and different purposes. And so you can probably do both with the same. So, but maybe there's some kind of middle ground we can still find.
We said very early on, we're going to have a lot of different stakeholders that have different viewpoints that we're going to need to present different views of the same information. Classic enterprise architecture.
Yes. We all done that. Yeah.
And I think, especially like when we're working with the TAC or we go in and talk to a working group, the mind map would probably be a better thing to work with just because it might have more information. And we can say, hey, why aren't you in the README? Or why is this called that? Or, what phase in the life cycle are we? That's another thing we'll need to capture is, is this like inception? Is it mature? Is it retired?
Yes, I agree.
Well, any other feedback or comments? Thank you for, continuing to evolve Matt's work. I appreciate that. But anything else, any other comments around that particular item? All right. So again, I'll try to track down Bob to see if we can figure out how we want to take this work output and share with Attack. We'll probably want to put together like a short deck to kind of walk the TAC through what we've been doing, what data we found, and then maybe dive into like the live demo section. Here's the mind map. Let's zoom in and zoom out and explode it and shrink it. So I'll start to think through some of that, how we're going to just share this and start to figure out how we're going to take action to start to correct some of these things and make the world a better place.
And that might be to share my file whenever, I'm like kind of through with this a little bit more, put the actual source file into the repo so that, others can take a crack at it or play with it.
Matt, so if you wanted to attach that on to Matt's issue, you could do that.
Yeah.
So he did both. That's issue 1 in our repo.
Not too hard to find.
Nope, we won't be sorting through a lot of stuff.
But because I think he shared the actual source file or shared okay, cool.
And then he also made it a ping.
I mean, he shared it with me through Box because that's what we use in generally, but that's why I wasn't sure what the status was.
Yeah, but so now I crammed the ping into the drawings folder, but he had started that off with that issue 1 where he gave the source file, gave a link to the tool.
Okay, cool.
Unfortunately, I don't have a Apple work device that I could install the tool on.
Oh, really? This is on the Apple?
Xmind says you can find it in the
Xmind.
Apple App Store.
No, I did not. I went to the website, I think.
Oh, I didn't. I didn't look around because he said I was doing this on my Mac, and unsurprisingly, Intel doesn't provide their employees a alternate silicon processor for our work devices.
I wonder why.
I don't know why.
No, but joke apart, I think go to xmind.app.
Okay.
Is that just, there is Windows. There you go.
Oh boy, I'm so excited about that.
Come on, man.
On my awesome corporate device, I get to use proprietary operating systems. It's great.
xmind.app. That's what I use.
All right.
All right, I'll download that.
Malware.
Yeah, I'll download it and play around. Thank you again. I will, again, try to get us some marching orders for next time. So keep an eye on the Slack channel and the mailing list. If you have any other ideas or views or viewpoints you want to throw out there for us to think about, please do.
All right.
Okay. And everyone enjoy the end of year holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever holiday you celebrate. Enjoy yourselves. Hopefully you have a quiet couple of weeks.
You too.
Cheers.
Good talking to
You're
you
not
guys.
planning another
Take
launch
care.
for Shell? Oh, come
Pardon?
on, man. You're not planning another launch for Shell? I was looking forward.
Don't jinx us.
I was just talking about that with my P cert. Yeah, I don't like that idea, Jonathan. Hush.
All right. Have a good holiday, everybody.
Cheers.
All right. Take care.